What am I going to do today? Well, that's what most people, when they see becoming a doctor, let's just take that for instance. They see this giant mountain they have to climb.
Correct.
They look at the mountain and they're like, that's too much work. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
There's things that are easier. I'm not going to do that. And they stop. They won't even take a step towards the mountain, let alone try to climb the mountain.
That's a good point.
A lot of young people, I encourage you, you only have 24 hours. You only have today.
Yeah,
okay?
That's right.
So what are you going to do today to move towards what God is pushing you for? You know, for me, every day was closer to being a doctor. Every day was closer to being where I was going to wind up being.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that was
Great
how
advice.
I approached each day.
Perspective.
I didn't look at this giant mountain that I had to climb because I knew I was going to climb it anyways.
That's right.
I was going to climb that mountain anyways. I wound up just taking 24 hours, what I can do today, work out, get good rest, go out the next day and hit it again. Hit it as hard as you can again.
Yeah.
And do that every day. And then guess what? You've already climbed the mountain. You're looking down. You're like, wow.
Welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Heirs, where faith meets business, inspiring the kingdom-minded entrepreneur. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how a poor boy goes to owning 4 freestanding emergency room departments. Today, we have Dr. Daniel Wagner joining us. Thank you for being here.
Sure, James. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's it's always fun. You and I, whenever we get together, we like to laugh.
Yeah.
And so we just spent the past 5 minutes or 10 laughing.
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad that we were able to do this at ourselves. And,
thank goodness.
Yeah. So, so Daniel Wagner, he's quite a success story. You are quite a success story, and as an entrepreneur, I think what we'd like to know is, how did you go from your beginning, right? How you started in life, and in life, what did you think when you were a young man? What did you think your life would hold? And your journey from that moment to where you're sitting now as I'm slightly envious that you're partially retired. You do most hunting, fishing, and loving every day, according to that country song.
Correct,
you're kind of the epitome of that country song. But how do you go from not being a great student to medical school, passing the boards? You're in line to be
2,500 steps along the way.
In the 2,500 steps along the way, you're in line at one of the largest hospitals, the largest hospital in our city, to become medical director at age 33.
Yes.
To deciding what route you want to go, and from there to owning 4 freestanding emergency room departments. Yes. I mean, that's quite a story. Yes. Fill us in.
Well, I'll tell you, James, had I thought when I was a child that I would be where I am today, it would be just beyond what I ever had dreamed of.
So from looking at Daniel's size, I just want to say this. He is the size of the most NFL football players. So did you have in your sights...
Already broke your chair.
Don't worry, he did buy the chair after he broke it. But trajectory, like what did you see? What did you see as a young man for your life?
I had a drive in me that initially was sparked up by something that captivates a lot of people. Okay. Corpus Christi is a Navy town.
There you go.
And so when I was a young child, 6, 7, 8 years old, I went to the air show with my parents.
Come on. Yeah.
And sure enough, I see these beautiful planes, loud, fast, cool. And I'm like, wow, you saw the Blue Angels. I'm like, I think I kind of want to do that. That's kind of like fun. That's really neat. And so that was the beginning of a dream in me that ultimately got me to go to college.
Yeah, that's good.
And I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a dream that God had put in my heart to literally, there's no other way to do that for most people. 90+% of pilots are college graduates. Very small amounts can go in from enlisted, but not very many at all.
Well said. Yeah.
And it forced me to, as a young man, I need to go to college.
Yeah, but wouldn't that have just been your pathway anyway from your family? Like, wouldn't that have just been like the next step?
Normally, yes, but nobody in my family had gone to college before.
Okay.
And so that hurdle of the unknown from going from high school to college, if you've never had somebody in your life that's real close to you that's done that, you don't have that experience.
It's the unobtainable, the unreachable.
You know, you're sitting next to your uncle that's got a degree in something. You can ask him. You can, okay, uncle, like? My uncle did this. You know,
well said.
I didn't have a lot of people in my life like that. I mean, they were hard workers. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, of course,
they were hard workers. But college was never a large aspiration for them. For me, trying to get into that cockpit of that cool, fast jet in the Navy, I had to go to college. So my mentality initially when I was young was like, I'm going to college, I'm going to college, I'm going to college. I don't care what I need to do. I'm going to college.
Right. That's good.
And so that really got my mentality set up there. Right before that, though, right before I actually graduated high school, there was a young man in my life that was in the same grade as I was. Mm-hmm. And we were about to graduate, and he said, I think I'm going to go into medical school. I'm going to be a doctor. And he starts throwing numbers around. And he's like, I'm going to make XYZ number. You know, for a lay person that's never heard of how much physicians make, that's like, wow. How much did they make?
This is back in the 90s, right?
Yeah, this is 90s. I graduated in 94. So this is like 93, 94. Yeah. And
to make six figures, the possibility of six figures back then was like,
to a young man who, we'd had houses repossessed in the past, we'd rented, frequently. That was, for me, almost a sign of like, wow, this is almost like a bulletproof. I can't fail if I get here.
There you go. Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, only nerds are doctors.
Come on. Yeah.
I'm definitely not a nerd. I'm barely making it in college.
I can agree.
High school.
You're not a nerd. I
was
can agree
barely making it in high school, And, God had put that through that young man. He put that little seed.
Yeah, the seed was planted.
In my heart.
That's good.
So I start going to college. My first year of college, I went to Texas A&M Kingsville. All right. Mm-hmm. And I had a decent scholarship. All right. ExxonMobil was paying for most of it.
That's a big deal.
And I was going to be a chemical engineer. That was going to be my pathway to get into the Navy through chemical engineering. Well, calculus changed that for me. Calculus 1. I quickly realized that the mathematics for being an engineer were just going to go higher and higher.
Yes.
And my skill set for mathematics suddenly dwindled.
Come on. Yeah.
And so I changed my mind about chemical engineering and decided to go to pre-medicine when I talked to a guy named Paul Marconi, friend of mine, real cool guy. He goes, yeah, I'm going to be a cardiologist. I think I'm going to run cardiology.
I'm going to run cardiology.
And I was like,
you?
If that guy could run cardiology, I could at least do cardiology.
I have to say,
so a little bit of envy personally, seeing a friend of mine pursuing what ultimately I would wind up doing. That pushed me into, okay, I'm definitely not going to be an engineer anymore. I'm switching majors.
I have to say this real quick. That has been my personal fuel in my life. When I look at another guy and I look what he's doing, and I'm like, if he can do it, and I'm looking at the guy, I'm like, if he can do it, and you get to talk to him, especially that's why it's great when you get to get a moment to engage with people.
Yeah,
and this is not a knock. Yeah, this is if this guy can figure that out, why can't I figure that out? It's just my fuel. It gets me excited and it puts me in that trajectory. I'm gonna figure it out.
Iron sharpens iron.
That's a great point.
I think that was part of it, and I didn't realize
Proverbs
it at the time.
27 verse 17.
Yeah.
Iron sharpens iron. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had scraped off that edge of chemical engineering in me.
That's good.
And now here's the crazy part, okay? Because, love my folks. They were doing everything they could to help me in college.
Absolutely. Yeah. Probably far better than where they were at from their parents, right?
Correct.
That continual launch pad.
Yeah. They were always supportive. They were always loving. Financially, there was limited funds to be able to help.
Sure.
So I come home with this crazy idea of I'm not going to be a chemical engineer anymore. I'm going to transfer to Texas A&M Corpus Christi, where they had a little bit larger of a program for pre-medicine. And I felt bad because I could have stayed on at Texas A&M Kingsville and done the same thing and let Exxon pay for it. But I felt bad. I was like, I'm probably taking somebody's scholarship.
Wow.
That really wants to be a chemical engineer.
Makes sense.
And can't make it.
Right, right.
So you know what? I'm going to give up my scholarship. I'm going to transfer schools.
That's a faith move.
And I don't know any idea of how I'm going to wind up paying for this.
Wow.
So I came home and told my parents, and they thought it was crazy.
That is crazy.
Yes.
It is crazy.
What
did you have lined up? Did you have anything lined up at that point to pay for it?
I had a credit card for my first class for zoology that I put on a credit card where you get the free T-shirt, for signing up for this, credit card.
They need to bring those perks back.
Free T-shirt.
Free T-shirt. Welcome to your debt. Free T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
love it.
It was a nice shirt.
Come on.
It was really nice. It went with a lot of things. But yeah. So I decided to, at that point, transfer schools. And the incentive with a friend to push myself into pre-medicine. At that point, being a pilot faded and being a doctor increased significantly.
And at this point, you're what, 20?
I was about 19, almost 20 years old.
Pivotal times. Yeah.
So I walked into my first class that I paid for with a credit card, $400 at the time, $400 or $500. And my parents were still mad. They still didn't understand.
Yeah,
they still
come on,
didn't
man.
do any of
what are you
that.
doing?
And I met Dr. Chopin, zoology professor. That was my first class into dedicated, I'm going to be a doctor no matter what, and I was fired up. Well, Dr. Chopin saw a fire in this kid, the snot-nosed kid that paid for his class with a credit card.
I love this.
And she said, I see you're very optimistic about you're doing really well with grades. You're very enthusiastic about this. I need a research assistant to help with some of these projects that I'm doing.
Dude.
Would you mind helping?
It's a paid position.
And it's a paid position. And
That's
I'm like,
big deal.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So, talk about a faith step, going from Kingsville, giving up a scholarship. Sounds crazy.
It is
to
crazy.
Start
it is
one
crazy.
credit card, meet that one person, that one professor that paves the way for you.
Wow.
Ultimately, Dr. Chopin would be instrumental in me getting into medical school. I didn't know it at the time. I just knew that she was a cool teacher and that she had really awakened in me the scientist in me to pursue medicine. And
that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a way to pay for it. Pay for your class, first class.
So that first, first semester, ultimately picking up those tabs, went from a 3.0 to a 4.0 that next semester because I was just, at that point, the fire was lit. I was on fire and nothing was going to stop me from going to medical school at that point, at least in my mind.
Yeah, of course.
I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know which way it was going to happen. I don't know which state, but I knew I was going to do that, become a physician as a profession.
So you go from 20 years old, 19, 20 years old, making the change. A lot of students do this. They'll make they have they're in high school, they set their trajectory and then in their middle of it and they have this like epiphany moment, like, I really want to do that.
Yes.
Right. But the thing that you had was you had the full ride at that point or partial ride to get you there. Was it a full ride or a partial?
It paid for most of my expenses.
Wow.
I mean, I had to pay for my books, but
that's pretty much a full ride.
Yeah.
At that point, you're like, no, medical.
Yes.
I'm going to make that detour. I'm going to go medical. And at that point, boots and all.
Yes.
Buckle up. We're going to make it happen.
Buckle up. And
I'm going to pay for it somehow. You're going to figure out a way to pay for it.
We're going to figure this point out. I don't know how to do it yet, but I'm going to do it anyways.
That's huge. That's such a big deal. So so at this point, you've got a walking relationship with God. Like, at this point, you're engaged. Like what? I mean, most people don't just take blind risks, right?
As a young man, trying to follow Christ. Of course, I'm following Christ the whole time. You want to, Christ has given us so much,
right?
That to not give your 100% into something in my mentality was shortchanging Christ on his investment in me.
That's good.
And I wanted to do everything I could from not only an ambitious standpoint and in a financial standpoint to improve my plight, but to, in essence, prove to God that I'm going to trust you. I'm going to have faith in what you're calling me to do, because ultimately I still loved the idea of flying in college. I still had that kind of as a background. Now it moved to the background, but it was still kind of there.
Of course.
So I tried to, and I wound up becoming what's called a telemetry technician. From my research relationships that I had with the research department and other people,
Right.
I got into a local hospital and was able to become what's called a telemetry technician and work full-time and go to school full-time and pay for college.
Wow.
This
So those are those
hospital-
connections. Those are those connection points.
Absolutely.
You work on the research team and you're a part of it, and they're like, "Hey, we like you. You know what? You do really over here. We know they have a need over here." And
Correct. And
it's
they
so well
blaze-
networking is so important
Yes.
from a young age.
Yes.
Young age.
And having the right attitude, I think, because I was always ambitious. I was always really happy to be there
Yeah.
because the next day I'm closer to being a doctor. The next day I'm being closer to being a doctor. Okay,
on.
what am I going to do today?
I'm almost there.
What am I going to do today? Well, that's what most people, when they see becoming a doctor, let's just take that for instance. They see this giant mountain they have to climb.
Correct.
They
Yes.
look at the mountain and they're like, that's too much work. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
There's things that are easier. I'm not going to do that. And they stop. They won't even take a step towards the mountain, let alone try to climb the mountain.
That's a good point.
So
really good point.
A lot of young people, I encourage you, you only have 24 hours. You only have today.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's right.
So what are you going to do today to move towards what God is pushing you for? You know, for me, every day was closer to being a doctor. Every day was
right.
closer to being where I was going to wind up being.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that was
Great
how
advice.
I approached each day.
Perspective.
I didn't look at this giant mountain that I had to climb because I knew I was going to climb it anyways.
That's right.
I was going to climb that mountain anyways. But I wound up just taking 24 hours, what I can do today, work out, get good rest, go out the next day and hit it again.
hard.
Hit it as hard
Hit
as
it
you
hard.
can again.
Yeah.
And do that every day. And then guess what? You've already climbed the mountain. You're looking down. You're like, wow.
So you had your residency. By when were you licensed?
So I graduated in 1998.
Okay.
I was right around 21 at the time, almost 22, and actually 21. And I got into 3 different medical colleges. Initially, the big hurdle of getting into medical school is getting to one is like, wow,
Yeah,
I
it's a
got
big deal.
in. I got in. One of the biggest hurdles I hear young people talk about is the statistic of how many applicants there are for spots.
Sure.
And that completely demoralizes most people.
Yeah. Well, then I'm not going to get picked.
I'm not going to
get
pick.
picked.
NASA takes 5,000, one candidate for 5,000. I'm not even going to apply to NASA.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to apply to this prestigious school.
Have a really good cover letter.
Yeah. And it's like, don't discourage yourself with that.
Yeah.
If you want to go to that NASA program and do that NASA program,
Put it in. Come on.
apply.
That's it.
Get up, hit it hard, apply. Don't let anything stop you.
Come on. Yeah.
And, statistics to me are just stepping stones to jump over.
Well said.
They're another thing to jump. Let's
right.
go. Let's get this.
So you have 3 options.
So I
Who'd you
have 3
choose?
options. I got into, believe it or not, I got into University of Texas, Houston, University of Texas Health Science Center, Houston, Texas College of Osteopathic Medicine in Fort Worth, and University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston.
Did you put any outside of the state or just stay within Texas?
Within Texas, because looking at the cost at the time, I realized if I was going to go out of state, I would pay out of state
Got it.
tuition, out of
Makes
state
sense.
stuff like that, or
Makes sense.
private. I didn't even apply to privates because I didn't want the debt that would come along with it.
Oh,
at
this
the
is good
time.
advice.
Yeah.
I mean, good advice to the point. If you're going to do it, be mindful of the incurred expense to get there. Right?
Absolutely. Because I was trying to be as responsible, limitedly as responsible as I could from the financial standpoint.
Right.
Because I don't want to come out of medical school at that point. My mentality was I don't want to come out of there, $300,000 or $400,000 worth of debt.
Come on. Yeah.
Day one.
Yeah, that's right.
As soon as you graduate, okay, here's $400,000 you're going to have to pay for the next 20 years or whatever.
Yeah. It's a big mortgage.
Yeah.
It's a mortgage payment.
And so I had to decide which place I wanted to go, all of which were great. Mm-hmm. All these programs that I'm talking about are great. But this is a crazy story.
Come on. We like crazy stories.
Okay. So I went into these different medical schools. Okay. And at the time, my soon-to-be wife and we worked out all the time. We'd run, we'd swim, we'd exercise literally every day. And so we were known as the workout couple.
Yeah. Oh, you were those guys. Yeah.
The workout couple. Okay. So we were working out all the time. And one of the things I looked at each of these facilities, at each of these medical schools, was the weight room.
The gym.
What did the gym look like?
Come on.
Okay. Now I went to one of them. I'm not going to say which one, but the rates were rusty. It's a really small rec facility, really small. If you call it,
you got to step it up, medical schools.
And I was like, obviously, there's not many people using this equipment. I don't think I like that. Okay. And then I had done a summer program in one of the other ones.
I love
and
it.
that was it's a very nice facility. And then I went to UTMB in Galveston, and I walk into this beautiful gym that's brand new. All this beautiful equipment,
Not
all
used
these
yet.
cool people in there actually using the equipment.
Come on.
And I'm like, okay, if this school invests enough into the students to get them this type of gym,
Yeah.
you can tell that they're, a wellness of the student is there.
That's right. Yeah. Well said. They're thinking about the whole person at that point.
They were, and they really wanted to take care of not only you as a student, but your spouse. And we wound up choosing University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston because of their facility, their workout facility.
I love it. I tell you what, man, there's little things that in the end, we all have little things that help us to make our decisions, right?
Yeah.
It's not just based on dollars or cents or, there's little things that, because we're a whole person.
Yes. And not to mention, I don't want to minimize the fact that, the Holy Spirit is pushing you in certain directions as well.
And that's my point.
You're praying for it.
At some point, you know what indicator he's going to use.
Yeah.
There's certain indicators that he'll use to.
My litmus test, I guess, at that point had been the weight facilities.
That's it. I love that.
It turned out really well. That and the fishing, of course, was right there. It's on the beach.
Yeah, the salt life.
Yeah.
The very salty life.
A big part of at the time.
So you're going through. You get to the point where you're in Galveston. You had your sights coming back home to Corpus Christi.
Now, this is when it comes to medical school. You usually have 4 years of medical school. Mm-hmm. Very rarely you have 3 and 3, but most of them, 98+% of these programs are 4 years of medical school. Mm-hmm. So you're talking 2 years of book studying for the first 2 years. You're doing molecule, cells, tissues, gross anatomy. You're looking at cadavers. You're actually looking at body parts. You're looking at x-rays. You're learning what this cell respiration is. Okay, what does pathology look like? Okay, what does this bone look like under a microscope?
Right.
Learning to be a doctor those first 2 years. The third and fourth year are really split up so that you can figure out what you want to do in the future.
Sure.
There's a lot of different paths to choose in medicine. Radiology, you can work, operate on people. You can be a radiologist. You can be a pathologist and not mess with anybody.
Right.
Psychiatrist. I mean, you can be, there's so many different fields to choose from. In the third year, you get exposure to a lot of them.
Yeah.
Internal medicine, pediatrics. The crazy thing was I liked a little bit of a lot of them.
Sure.
But not enough for me to be like, wow, the psychiatry is really cool. It was neat. It was really neat with some of the things that we're doing, but I was like, I don't see myself being a psychiatrist.
Great point. That's a great point. You had to decide, were you going to specialize or were you going to be a generalist?
Yeah.
And is that what happened?
Essentially what wound up happening is I didn't even look into emergency medicine because it wasn't big on my radar at the time. Mm-hmm. General surgery, anesthesia, radiology, all of these were kind of big, ophthalmology, and all of these were kind of looming. Once you decide you want to try to pursue something, you have to find a residency in it.
Got it.
And the more competitive, the harder it is that you have to do on these tests and be more competitive with your class. And so
you have higher rankings in your class.
You have higher rankings. Right. Everything is a competition in medical school. And
is there sabotage in medical school?
I've heard about it, but I've not independently confirmed it.
Can we talk more about it? The cutthroat of medical school. I've never really heard about that. Yeah. So to the point, I think that would be kind of interesting. Case studies of the sabotage that takes place. But so you then make a decision to go ER.
I went to the emergency department in UTMB. Okay, I went down there and I did a rotation. And from day one, it was like I was hearing music, classical music for the first time. In rolls this lady that's completely unconscious. And I see this guy, this doctor, whirl in there and intubates and starts doing chest compressions and starts doing, he's pushing this drug, that drug. The nurses are working hard. They're shocking. And I was like, okay, I think I found something.
I'm certain that I'm not the only one at this moment in the show who's recognizing Daniel's connection to jet fuel and the ER.
Yeah, pretty much.
Acceleration.
There is never...
Adrenaline, let's go.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I walk in, and of course you go from that awesome setup, where I wouldn't say awesome. Of course, somebody's dying.
No, we get it.
But
we get
it. From a medical standpoint,
there you go. You're like, all right, let's go. Systems go.
Seconds to operate, seconds to move, seconds to decide which medicine to give.
Yeah, that's right.
That was fuel to me for sure.
That's what I can see. The correlation is right there.
And so I was like, wow, okay, I think I'm going to be an emergency medicine doc.
You could be in the jets blowing stuff up, or you could be in the ER putting it all back together.
Figuring out which one to do.
Come on, I love that. That's good. So you then have that experience.
I have that experience. I finally find out specifically what type of physician I want to be, because ultimately you have to choose a field that you're going to go into. Right. Everybody has to choose a field.
That's right.
And whether it be family practice for a lot, or pediatrics, or ophthalmology, or everybody at the time wanted orthopedic surgery. You want to break bones, you want to saw them, and you want to crack, get together, and they make a lot that
you would have made a lot of money on me as a kid. Broke a ton of bones.
Bone crusher.
Yeah,
they say, you don't want to be a bone crusher? Come on, you're that size of guy. And I was like, it's just not for me. I like bones. I like setting shoulders, pulling shoulders back into socket. I love stuff like that. But to do it, emergency medicine for me was everything.
You had your hands on everything.
It was geriatrics. It was, one of my friends had put it another way, who was also an ER physician. He said, when you need a doctor, who are you calling? I need an ER doc. I'm not calling. Where's the radiologist?
No. Right.
Where's my internal medicine?
Yeah.
Not to downplay those at all.
No, but to your point.
You want somebody that can think fast on their feet.
Yes.
And that was for me. It was emergency medicine.
I love that. So then fast forward, you get to
apply for medical school. I mean, not medical school, residencies.
Right.
And I, at the time, Texas was a little bit behind the Northeast when it comes to education for emergency physicians. Mm-hmm. So I applied to all these faraway places. And, Henry Ford in Detroit, Kalamazoo, Michigan, Jacksonville, Florida.
Jeez, wow, yeah. The gamut, all over the place.
I'm trying to remember all the other ones. There was one in New York that had 9 feet of snow, and I was like, I can't do that.
Yeah, you're not missing it.
Sunny New York, or some program in New York. I think it was Saginaw. No, it wasn't Saginaw, but New York. I turned down that one.
Stony Hill?
It was right on the lake. It was right by the lake. There's a lake that has a lot of snow.
For those of you who are from New York, you know that there's about 10,000 lakes with lots of snow.
Oh my! Syracuse. It was Syracuse.
Yes,
it had to be Syracuse.
Great basketball, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Good basketball.
Oh yeah. Lots of snow too.
Very cold. Very snow. A lot of snow.
Yeah. Basketball and snow.
So you make the decision. ER is where you're headed.
Yes.
It's where you connected. It's where you knew that you would be in your happy place at any moment. And you would be alert, and it's like, this is octane. Yes. I just want to make that connection point back to the jets as a kid.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to fly jets.
Yeah.
Because of the rush that came from that whole experience. And you're like, you're now moving into a direction where it's an octane. It's like adrenaline. You've got to move quick. You got to move fast. You got to be accurate, precise.
Yes.
Super cool. Like, there's that correlation.
And the ability to communicate with people in a rapid form so that you can figure out specifically what's going on with them in the shortest amount of time.
That's right.
And so you use whatever trick in the book, with the kids, you come in like doing the little, a clown. Wow, what's going on?
Is that where you get your funniness from?
You got to play around with your patients. You got to have fun with your patients.
Come on. To your point, we're experiencing like trauma. We're experiencing like something crazy.
Yeah.
And everything shouldn't be just stoic and morbid. right? There should be a way to somehow bring some type of sunlight back into that situation.
Nobody wants to work stoic and morbid, to be honest with you.
I believe it. Yeah.
So the environment that you go into, you have to have some fun in as well.
So well said. It's true.
Yeah.
I've frequented your freestanding ER departments on several occasions, and I have always found that
it's always a bad day when that happens. By the way, for you,
fingers getting cut off, something's going on, and
fevers of unknown origin,
something. And I want to say that you have done a great job with bedside manner with your team. They have excellent bedside manner, and my wife and I always walk out of there. We're like, these guys just do it really, really well. I mean, then I see the bill, but I'm like, I name drop you, but it doesn't work. But they're like, yeah, everybody knows this guy. No deal for you. But the manner that these guys attend, is awesome. And so I think that is probably one of the reasons why TLC has done so well. And TLC is the name of your ERs. But what is TLC? What is that name? Is it
ultimately during my early career in an emergency department, I was exposed to some teachings and some books by Robert Kiyosaki, who's big into entrepreneurship.
Yes.
If you've read any of his books, they're contagious. I highly recommend it, by the way.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad is probably his most famous.
Of course.
Written in the late 80s?
Late 90s.
Early 90s, late
early
80s?
90s.
Yeah. I read it very early. I was 18 when I read it.
Yeah. Very good book. It got me to, it was that epiphany moment in your mind where you're like, okay, my mind doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
I need to change my mind to think like this now.
Change my thinking. Yeah.
And that paradigm shift that you have in your mind, for me, was happening right when I was getting close to finishing residency.
Yeah.
And pretty much the infancy of what's called freestanding emergency departments in Texas, at least.
Yeah. It had not kicked off yet. It was you guys are one of the first ones in town doing it.
Yeah. The very thought process of having an emergency department that's not connected to a hospital was new at the time.
Yeah, it was.
There was a few people in Dallas doing it, and I vividly remember praying about it because I saw these guys and I saw how successful they were. Yeah. And then I saw some other physicians that weren't as successful from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And from an entrepreneurship, seeing that was another Marconi moment for me.
Right.
You know, the fuel on the fire. Oh, that's what I want to do.
Like, why not?
And so I named the prayer. I said, Lord, I want to be a freestanding ER owner. I don't want to be an employee. I want to be an owner.
What year was this?
2005.
So at
this is
point,
right when I was about to finish residency.
Wow. Okay. So that's kind of a big statement. You hadn't even like actively served yet, full-time capacity in any of the hospitals other than a residency.
Other than residency and doing some moonlighting, which good. I did. I moonlit. I knew what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And it was exciting. It was fun. But I knew that ultimately inside, if I didn't scratch the entrepreneurial side of it,
yeah, that's right,
I would be feeling left out. I felt
well said.
Like I would not have been able to reach where I wanted to reach.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of guys and gals that have that thought process a lot. Yeah. They're like, oh, what if I could have, I would have, I should have. They have these.
Want that. I don't want those regrets.
Right, because then it's linked to a regret.
Yes.
And then the question is, well, you were a young guy when you got in. We had a previous episode. We had my daughter who was 17 when she got into business. We've had previous people, but I'm an old guy. I'm an old lady. I've already served. I've already put my time in, but did I miss my moment? I think the question is, at what time can you get into entrepreneurship?
Well, you can look at other people's examples. And then oftentimes what I do is, for me, it wasn't so much a regret of not doing it.
Didn't you have to go put 20 years in first before you can launch into your own thing?
That's initially. Right? Initially, though, it was the same thought process inhibiting me going into business that had inhibited me from trying to go to medical school.
There you go. This is good.
Trying to go to college. It was the same barrier that I saw. And I'm like, I've seen this before. I'm going to jump that barrier. There's no barrier. That's not a barrier. That's a perceived barrier. I'm going over that.
Perceived. That's right.
Because I've already jumped over those other two hoops in the past.
Well said. Confidence begets confidence. Success begets success.
Yes.
It's just, you set the goal, you hit the goal. Well, that's success. Whatever the goal was, It's building success upon success. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well done.
Absolutely.
So you spend your time. You spend your time at, was it? Which hospital did you join here in Corpus Christi?
There's two large hospital facilities. I was the one with the trauma facility.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can say the name or.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. I was part of the Christus Spawn health systems.
Christus Spawn. That's a large network. That's a big group.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So I worked at Shoreline. I worked at Spawn South predominantly, and I worked at Spawn Memorial when it was open.
Right.
And I had the experience to work with multiple teams, multiple physicians, multiple nursing staff.
Absolutely.
And I was able to, for one aspect of my career, experience different environments of care in the same city, which I'm grateful for, because I was able to meet a lot of people that would wind up helping me achieve my goals in the future.
Yeah, you're very well networked.
So
yeah. Your circle's pretty big, which is huge. To that point, it's because you've kind of put yourself out there as you're very approachable, you're friendly, you're personable, right? Most people have no idea that you're a doctor, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's made it. Quite frankly, in my opinion, is that you're very pleasant to be with, in the sense that you get around some educated people, highly educated people.
Yes.
And it's very stuffy. It's very stuffy. You took the words out of my mouth. It's very stuffy.
Absolutely.
And
I've been
they
around
know
a lot of them.
And they know more than me, and I know that, and they definitely know that, and they flex that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like very off-putting.
It is
very off-putting.
It is. It just good to me that immediately puts me into what insignificance in their life are they trying to compensate for.
Well said. It's so true, right? And so I think that to be that kingdom mindset of, look, every opportunity I have, I just want to share Jesus with people through love.
Absolutely.
Through kindness, through acceptance. And even as we become more successful, and again, success is based on your own standard of what you deem success, right?
Correct.
At that point, it's like, you know what? Let's talk about it. You being here today just to share your story with us and with the listeners is like, no, it's an open book. Anybody can really have this success. If they desire this, they can achieve it. But great point. You don't look at it as the mountaintop.
Yeah.
That's where you're getting to. Just look at it as step 1, step 2, day by day.
We all have 24 hours to work with. That's it. It's not like, I get a couple extra hours to do this and become a doctor and look down on people.
So true.
I don't, we all have 24 hours to work with. We all have
24 hours. And what do we choose to do with it is really the key question. Looking at how you've transitioned in your career early on. I love that you said this early on. You saw what was beginning to become something. You're like, you know what? I mean, I really don't have to put 20 years in with this system or this group. I don't have to have my first retirement to go do my second thing I really want to do. Why don't I just set my sights on that? Work through the channels that I have to get to the point where I'm ready.
This fledgling career path or entrepreneurship path wasn't there for most people.
Most people would have said, dude, just get the medical director role and camp, make huge amounts of money and just be an employee.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? That's the safe bet. That's the safe route, and you'll make lots of money.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like... Right. I mean, so why would you take the risk of taking on a business and debt and overhead and Why would you take that risk versus just camping with the sure bet?
They might not show up. I may fail. I may lose all the money I just put into this business.
So true, man.
I don't know. These are all the little nagging thoughts I had in my mind.
Of course. Yeah, we all do.
When I was praying about this, honestly, I prayed about this big time, because what wound up happening is to start TLC meant that I had to jump ship from where I was comfortable,
making good money,
where I had known all the nursing staff, known all the workers, known all the all the people that make these facilities great.
The systems were good.
Yeah, I knew how to work within those systems.
Yeah,
and it was comfortable.
Right,
and it was easier. And
just show up, everything's already there. Everything's already going. Yeah, you just show up and everything's running.
They spring on me at 33, just about the time I was going to make up my mind to do TLC. They spring on me, we want you to be the medical director for this facility. And I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. And it was like literally the epitome of being part of a employee-based emergency physician. This was going to be the best that you can do.
Administrative
standpoint, this is moving up the chain.
At what age?
33.
Oh my goodness.
And
that's
to be a part of a
deal.
large facility. And it was big. I mean, because I really struggled with that one because I didn't know whether or not God had called me to do TLC or not at the time.
Said.
I was really back and forth because it's a knot of confidence and let's be straight with it, an ego boost at 33 to be a medical director for
that's what I'm saying. It's a big
major
deal.
facility.
Absolutely.
And it was very tempting, very tempting. So for 3 days, I couldn't sleep. I could not sleep on that decision specifically for 3 days. And I said, Lord, you're going to have to give me something. You're going to have to show me something because I don't know whether or not you want me to do this. Yeah. This may be where you're pointing me.
Sure.
I don't know.
Right.
And I go to, of all places, Feeding of the 5,000, where Jesus looks at Philip. And in my mind, I had been looking at the cost of starting a facility.
Of course. Yeah. Big bucks.
Expensive.
Big bucks.
Scary. Dangerous. Oh my gosh.
Risky
could lose all of the money that I did. Nobody shows up. I'm out. I go flat on my face. All of these.
No customers for you.
Yeah. I'm thinking of all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And then I hear Jesus say to Philip, feed him. You feed him. It's going to take 6 months of a man's wages to get everybody a bite.
Yeah.
Which meant, I was walking Philip's steps at that point. It's going to be so much money. I can't even feed all of these people, let alone, how are you going to meet this need? I don't know.
Yeah.
God was showing me, you walk out in faith, take what you've got, I'm going to bless you.
Come on.
And I can tell you, gosh, retrospectively now, I'm so glad I chose our own facility at that point.
Yeah.
And I went in gung-ho. I slept. I felt really good about it. And I turned down the other position of being a medical director. And we went full bore for this new facility, which wound up being TLC. January 3rd, 2011, we opened up and saw one patient.
Well done.
And boy, did we take care of that one patient, man. She had
great bedside manner.
The blankets were fluffed. The pillow was It went from 1 patient to 2 to 4 to 10 to 12 to 20 to 40 to 70 to 110 at one point.
A day.
And it went within a year. It had done really well. There was a need for primary care in Corpus Christi. And
huge need, yeah.
We met that need and then some with TLC. And I'm so glad I did it because that exercise in faith, that faith muscle.
That's all it is. It's the faith muscle.
Comfortable, 30 years, retire, go to Florida and go golf, or take this huge risk, knock it out of the park, and take the rocket ride up to where God wants you to go.
That's right.
Are you going to trust him enough in your life to ride the rocket, or are you going to trust him enough to ride this comfortable BMW car here that's going to, where that ends.
That's it.
You know where that ends.
That's it.
That was another Matrix moment, by the way.
I love it. I'd love to jump
when it was raining, and he goes, Neo, don't jump out of the car. And, one of the characters looked at him and he goes, you know where that road leads. You know where that road ends. Yeah. Stay in the car.
Come on.
You know where this one's exciting. And that to me was another pivotal time. All these little moments in your mind. Yeah. That was the thought process I had at the time. I know where that road ends. I want this road. Stay in the car.
You know what I love about your story is, when I first came into town back in 2011, we had heard about. We were visiting churches, and there's this young man, probably I say young man, probably 40s with his 2 little kids, and he was getting baptized. And the pastor was telling about how there's this new urgent care starting in Calallen area region. Was it Calallen or
it was actually the south side was our first one, our very first facility.
But they were talking about it, and I said, "Man, this is so cool!" And because it was such a brand new thing, and this was in 2011.
Yeah.
And so there was correlation. These guys must have been working with your group, and 10 years later, I get to meet you.
Yeah.
But I remember it launching, and we didn't know each other. But I remember it launching, and I'm thinking, man, that's really cool, and it's Christian based. Yeah. These guys are men of faith. TLC is the Lord's care, right?
the Lord's Clinic.
The Lord's Clinic.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I just think,
I'm just a steward of this business.
And I think that's what's huge about this is that your group and you and your team, you and your wife and your family, you guys, I don't like the word give back. Because I don't like that word at all because it implies that you took something that wasn't yours. You guys with your company and your businesses, you guys sow back into the community in so many different ways. And it just reminds us that, what we have is not ours. It's really not ours. We're just stewards. Now we get to take care of our family really well with the resources that we've generated but God's helped us to do that and He's enabled us to do that. But you guys practice that you truly are stewards of these resources, even with your businesses, not just your personal income, your paycheck, but it's with your companies. And I think that's so awesome that you continue to sow into the community and the faith community. You guys are part of a lot of different things. And I'm just, it's exciting to see where you're at right now and where you're going to be in another 10 years and however the next hurdle that gets presented before you, and you're like, oh, I could jump that. Because the Holy Spirit's the one who prompts us with those hurdles, those barriers. You're like, you may not know it right now, and I mean this sincerely, maybe it's kind of speaking prophetically, but there's the next thing is going to present itself. And I am almost certain you're going to be like, say I won't. Say I can't. Right? I mean, that's kind of your story.
Absolutely.
It's kind of your story.
Absolutely. It's always taken those perceived, periods of, you can't do that. You're not supposed to do that.
That's not for you to do.
That's not for you to do. That's
the other guy.
Yeah. That to me is complete opposite fuel.
It's opposite of the kingdom. Kingdom mind is, the world thinks that the world is fueled by fear.
Yes,
and that's the father of this world.
We've lived through fear the last 3 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, fear-based, right? Yeah. And so fear-based living is not good for your health. I'm sure you could talk about that.
Absolutely.
But the kingdom mindset is, I know that you're not, you feel as though you're not prepared for this, but you are equipped. I'm with you. This is the Holy Spirit speaking. I am with you, and we are going to do this together. If you want to stay in the car and do this together, right?
Yes.
Or you can get out and just turn around and always wonder what it would have been like.
You know where that road ends.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's so much better for us, as we wrap up and we just take a minute to kind of reflect on this. It's so much better for us to get in the car with the Holy Spirit and say, look, let's go together. Let's get on, like you said, get on the rocket, right? Let's ride this thing vertical.
Yeah, faith is the substance of things that are not seen.
Yeah, so well said.
Okay, so He's asking you to do things that are not seen right now.
But they exist.
But they exist in the heavenly realm.
That's right.
And we speak them. I spoke that back in 2005.
I love that, yeah.
And I was reminded of that, a couple of days ago. Just thinking about, I was praying for that way before.
Way before.
You got to pray about it. You absolutely got to pray about it.
And walk it out.
Speak it.
Speak it out. Speak it into existence. It's a great point.
Yeah.
You confess it with your mouth.
Yes.
And then you believe it. Now, at that point, you start confessing it with your mouth. You believe it here.
Yeah.
It takes root here. Like, you know what? I really can do that. But now if it stops there, it can't stop there. Then it actually literally has to do intangible steps. Make the phone call, start
call
the
that
next
person
thing. Yeah, that's right.
That's in your life for some reason that you didn't know about. Now you know why that person's in your life.
That's it.
Okay, not to use that person.
No, but you engage with them.
Utilize that relationship to further the kingdom of God.
I love that, man. That's what's so cool about all of this. I'm a builder. My background is home remodeling, handyman, to the point of now. One day I think about it, it's like, man, I want to build a house. This is when I was just starting. I'd love to build a house. Yeah. Or I'd love to, man, look at that. Man, I'd love to build that shopping center.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah. But I was just this lowly guy just, fixing people's houses so I could feed my family.
Yeah.
And to that point, but God set that in my mind, but why not? But why not?
Why can't you build that house?
Why can't I do that?
What's stopping you?
What's stopping me? Yeah. And the only thing that's stopping me is me.
Yes.
And I think that's the whole premise here. Is that we stop ourselves, we prevent ourselves. If we have a living, walking relationship, tangible relationship with the living God, nothing really can stop us from moving and advancing in life.
Correct.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for taking time to to sit down and share your story?
Oh, James, yeah. Real quick, let me just, what I'm trying to do now is give that same entrepreneurial fire to the next generation with football teams.
Generational.
And I want them to see the hurdles for what they are. They're self-imposed. You jump them. Get up, do what God has called you to do. Be the man in your family, in your life, and in this community, because ultimately we need people that are following Christ.
That's it.
Succeeding in our community.
Well said.
That's my new mission.
Is this with the organization?
Multiple.
Yeah.
Multiple different organizations. Child Evangelism Fellowship. Okay. I'm working with Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yes.
I'm independently talking through my business, my influence with business.
Yes, this is how it works.
I buy high school students breakfast. Okay, that's my entry into.
Isn't this great? Tacos.
Coach, let me buy your players tacos before the game. It's
so simple, but it's
huge. Talk for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go from there.
Isn't that awesome?
And I pour what I can pour into these young men before they see these obstacles and start saying, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't do that." No, you can. You can do that. We need you to do that.
I love
Corpus Christi needs you to do that.
This is awesome. Yeah.
So
using the influence that we have, they're the influence that we have in the community as business owners, as business leaders, as community leaders, opens the door wide up. As successful entrepreneurs, it opens the door wide open for the advancement of the good news.
Yes.
And we can reach people with that success that we've gained. And I'm talking about the people here. Yeah, you might live in a different state. I mean, this is national, international. But the point is that the principles are true for all of us.
Yes.
Use whatever platform we have to advance the good news, the message that God loves us, He sees us, and He wants you to excel,
to grow in faith,
to know Him.
Yes,
I love it, man.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you again, everybody. Thanks for taking a minute to listen and to watch online. If you liked what you heard today, please go ahead and subscribe and ring that bell. I would encourage you to please share this with your friends and your family. This is a nice behind the scenes look at how someone goes from I'd say maybe a poverty mindset to definitely not there anymore. Oh my goodness. And the wealth and the connections that have been made and how things continue to grow from that decision that he would trust God and see that barrier as fuel to get him to the next place. I think it's very encouraging for me to hear this. So thank you again, guys. We appreciate you. God bless you.